In this video, we'll introduce ExcelRT and show how you can use spreadsheet techniques to construct a desktop application or a cloud-based application that runs in a browser from any computer or mobile device. Let's get started by going to excelsoftware.com, and if we scroll down towards the bottom of the screen, you'll see a link to the main ExcelRT page. From this page, you can access a lot of resources to learn about and get started with ExcelRT. For example, there's a link to a page discussing the ExcelRT Builder. ExcelRT Builder is basically the ExcelRT runtime with a builder ribbon of tools across the top. And these tools can be used to construct your workbook by adding sheets, defining how many columns and rows are on each sheet, adding formulas, conditional formatting, cell formatting, table filters, all the various things you would typically do within something like OpenOffice or Microsoft Excel to construct a spreadsheet. We can develop our spreadsheet on either a Mac or Windows computer, and then we can then turn it into a standalone licensed application that either runs on Windows or Mac computers. For example, if we click the link here, we see kind of an overview of how that process would work. We would construct our workbook with ExcelRT Builder, and then we can add additional scripting commands if we need to add enhanced capabilities beyond what you could typically do in a spreadsheet. We can add a licensing system and wrap our workbook into a standalone application using either Quick License or the App Protect tool, and further productize our application. Finally, we can set up an automated purchase and delivery process where a user can, from your website, they can click a button, enter their credit card information, then get to a download page where they can download your finished application, and they'll receive a serial number where they can launch and activate it to their computer. The same workbook that can be used to build standalone Windows or Mac applications can also be loaded into an ExcelRT Cloud account. Let's click on this link and we'll see a little information about the ExcelRT Cloud environment. Basically, using pretty much any browser, the user can log into a cloud version of your application and use it from any computer or mobile device. Let's scroll a little further down on the page. We'll see some additional information about ExcelRT. You can get access to the full user guide by clicking this link. We're going to show you the download page in just a moment, but before we do that, let's look at the video library. From the video library, if we go to the ExcelRT tab, you'll see there are many videos related to ExcelRT, to the builder environment, and the scripting language. There's also, on the Cloud tab, you can see some information about once you have your ExcelRT workbook, how you can load it into an ExcelRT Cloud vendor account, set up user accounts that you've assigned that application to, and then anyone with a web browser can then use your application. Let's go to the downloads page, and from the downloads page you'll see there are links to download ExcelRT on a Windows computer or on a Mac computer. There's also an ExcelRT examples download where you'll get lots of examples to show different techniques within ExcelRT and also to help you learn the scripting language if you need to add more advanced features to your workbook. There's also a conversion tool that you can download onto a Windows computer, and the purpose of that tool is you can take an existing Excel workbook and run it through the conversion process to create your ExcelRT file. That gives you a good starting point where you can further refine and optimize that with the ExcelRT Builder environment. Finally, to construct your own ExcelRT workbooks and standalone applications, you will need a subscription, a developer subscription for the ExcelRT environment. And that will enable the Builder environment and allow you to create compressed versions of your ExcelRT file that you can distribute to other users. We've downloaded and installed ExcelRT and ExcelRT examples into the Applications folder on a Mac computer. If we open up the ExcelRT folder, we see there's a copy of the ExcelRT runtime file itself and an associated plugins folder. That plugins folder is used for some of the more advanced scripting capabilities within ExcelRT, where you can read and write data to a file in the plugins folder, or even share data between different workbooks or different ExcelRT-based applications. There are two different file types that can be created with ExcelRT. When you're designing a new workbook with the ExcelRT Builder or converting an Excel workbook over to ExcelRT, it creates a design type workbook file, which is stored in a file type called XML. So it's an XML formatted text file, and this is useful during the authoring process when you're creating the workbook. When you get done creating and testing the workbook, you can then, with ExcelRT, save out an encrypted, compressed copy of that file, and that stores it into a .ert file type. So it's much smaller, and it also compresses and encrypts the files so that all the formulas are hidden and can never be viewed by the end user. Let's take a look at this file when we launch it into the ExcelRT runtime. So if we open up the file, we see it opens up into a window. And this is actually a workbook that contains two sheets. It contains a chart and it contains a little table. Now, before saving it out into the ERT file, we've hidden the column and row headers and the grid lines and the scroll bars, and we actually have hidden the sheet selectors at the top so that we could just and use a simple button that just navigates us between the sheet, making it look a little bit more like an application. So for example, we can edit one of the values in the table, click the button, and that will navigate us back to the sheet chart, and then it changes one of these columns. Now let's open up the source version of the workbook. We've already launched the ExcelRT application and entered a serial number to enable the full builder capabilities. If we double click the application now, it's going to present the ExcelRT Builder Open dialog, where we can create a new workbook by clicking on the New button, or we can select an existing project and click Open to open that into ExcelRT. When we open up the workbook, we can see we have a workbook with two sheets. The first sheet is chart and the second sheet is table. And we see the full set of builder tools across the top. Let's click on the Workbook Properties tool and make our column and row headers visible and turn on our horizontal and vertical grid lines. And then it looks a bit more like a normal Excel or OpenOffice type spreadsheet application environment, where we can see we have a grid of cells and we can put data into those cells. Now on this sheet we have a dynamic chart, and this dynamic chart is linked to the data in this table. And we have a couple of buttons. We have a button here that takes us back to the first sheet, and this button takes us to the table sheet. And to make this button work, we've essentially written a little bit of script code. So when we click the button, it runs the script. Let's take a look at that. If we open up our script editor, we can see that we have the name of the button equals and then a script command. So when we click this button, this is button 1, it's going to run the script command called show sheet, and we give the name of the sheet we want to show, which is the table sheet. So we click this button, it takes us to the table sheet, and on that other sheet we have button 2 that takes us back to the chart sheet. Once you've finished editing and testing your workbook and any scripting commands you want to add, you're going to want to probably hide your row and column headers and grid lines and then save out this ERT file. And you can do that by, we'll go to the workbook properties again and hide those column and row headers and grid lines. You can also set the actual window size of our main application window right here and here. And then once we have that set, we can just simply click on the Save Encrypted, and there's some additional options we can set here. For example, we can click the checkbox here, which will hide the actual sheet selectors. And when we click the Make ERT file, it will then save out this compressed ERT file. Let's look at a few other examples that we've installed into the ExcelRT Examples folder within the Applications folder. Here we see the simple workbook with a table and a chart that we were just looking at. Here's another sample project, and let's go ahead and open and look at that one. And you'll see in most of these there'll be a little description PDF file that kind of describes what the workbook does. And in this case, we're just demonstrating some of the different chart types supported by ExcelRT. So we'll look at this one, and then we've actually applied an open password to the workbook. So we had to enter that password to actually open it. But here we see we have an area chart and a column chart and kind of a scatter plot. Here's a chart with some background imagery. Another chart there, another area chart. There's a bar chart, and so on. So you can see some of the different chart types that are supported by ExcelRT. Here's an example project using CSV files. That's a popular way of sharing data with a spreadsheet or other types of applications. And in this example, it shows how you can read and write CSV data into your workbook. Here we have a bridge card game scoring application built with the ExcelRT environment. And here's a travel calculator. Let's take a look at that one. We started with an Excel workbook and ran it through the conversion tool to create the XML file, and then we opened it up into ExcelRT Builder and saved out the ERT file. If we take a look at that file, we've also applied an open password to that one as well, and you can see the finished result there. We have a stock application that brings in real-time trading data for any ticker symbol that you want to enter it in, and then charts it out in this sample project. And finally, let's look at this one here. This is a little quoting application. So we started out by constructing our workbook with the ExcelRT Builder, and then we saved out the finished file into a source folder called quote.ert. And we also have an icon file for Mac and for Windows, and we've configured a little license file with the quick license application and then wrapped it into a finished standalone desktop application. Now, if you want to distribute your ExcelRT file as an actual standalone Mac or Windows application, you'll need a licensing tool, and you have a couple of options to choose from. App Protect will create just a simple product license that once activated runs forever on the customer's machine. Or if you need more sophisticated licensing options like the ability to create time-limited trial licenses, product licenses that once activated run forever, or a try-buy license where they can try it and then permanently activate, or a subscription license, then you're going to want to use the quick license application. And that's what we've kind of used in this example. We had quick license installed on our computer in the applications folder, and it comes with several files. The two we used here are the main quick license application, where we defined the kind of license we wanted and generated this ticket file. And then we use the add license wrapping tool that allows us to wrap this ExcelRT workbook, the ticket file that defines our license, the icon file we want to apply, and we can also apply some other options that determine the actual customized version of the application that's presented to a user. So the end result we'll show you here, and we have it in this output folder. So this is the standalone Mac application that was generated from the ExcelRT file. Now, when the user double clicks to launch it for the first time, they could be presented with an activation screen of some type where they would use a manual activation process or an online serial number activation process to actually activate the application. We've already done that, so it just launches now each time into this open data file window. This is a built-in file manager that can optionally be added to your application. And it allows the user to create different named instances of your workbook. So if the user clicks the new button, they can create a quote for, let's say, John, or a quote for Sally. And then if they select any one of these and click the open button, it actually opens into the ExcelRT environment. And now you're seeing the finished result of the application, where there's kind of a main screen where the user can enter some data about the project, and then there's a details screen where they can have an itemized list of things that they're quoting, and you got some calculations going on. The user can add more rows or delete rows or import or export the data or go to a summary sheet and print it out. So that's basically what this little application does that was constructed with ExcelRT and then wrapped into a desktop application with the quick license tool. In addition to creating a Windows or Mac desktop application from our ERT file, we can also turn this into a cloud-based application with an ExcelRT cloud account. Let's take a look at how that works now. We're going to use a browser and log into a vendor account. Once we log in, we see you can create a list of applications and a list of user accounts that you want to assign those applications to. So we're going to do that now for our quote application. We're just going to click the Add button, and we're going to type in the name of our application and the name of the main workbook file. We have to give the open password there. We want to include a built-in file manager for that application. And let's automatically save when the user closes out. And then we have to upload this ERT file. So we're going to have to navigate to our applications folder, and under ExcelRT examples, we have the in our source folder there we see our ERT file. So we went ahead and uploaded that. And now we can click OK, and we now have our application defined in our ExcelRT Cloud Vendor account. Now we have to create a couple of user accounts here so we can assign it to different users. So let's go ahead and create an account, and let's call the first user John Doe, and we'll just give it a simple password of password 1, and then let's go ahead and assign this application to that account. And we'll go ahead and create another user account here, and we'll call this one Jane Doe with a slightly different password. And we'll also assign this quote application to Jane's account. So you can see now we've uploaded our application into our ExcelRT vendor account, and we've created a couple of user accounts and assigned the application to it. Now you can create as many different applications as you want in your account, and as many different user accounts as the capacity of your account will hold, and then assign those applications to it. And the ability can also be automated. For example, you can have an automated process where a user makes a purchase, and then it automatically creates the account and assigns the app to it. Now that we've created our cloud application and assigned it to a couple of user accounts, let's see how it works. So we type in the name of the application and our username and password. And by the way, you can customize this login screen as well with your own name here and custom icon if you wish. So when the user logs in, they get to kind of this open data file window where they can click the new button, and let's create a new quote for John. And while we're at it, we'll create a new quote for Sally. And then if we want to open up one of those into the workbook, we can just click the open button, and now we're in the workbook. And we see we have our three screens here. We have our main screen where we can enter data, and we have a details screen, and we can add our items and have the calculations over here, creating the total. We can add additional rows or remove rows from our item list. And we can also go to the summary sheet and then print out the summary or change the logo and various things like that, just like we could when it was running as a desktop application. Introduction has given you a small taste of what's possible with ExcelRT. We've seen how you can use spreadsheet techniques to create Windows applications, Mac applications, or cloud-based applications that run in a browser. We have an extensive video library that describes all the sophisticated capabilities that are possible with ExcelRT, including the robust scripting commands that are built into the application. We've also integrated various technologies into ExcelRT, including HTML, Python, JSON for extracting data from internet sources and using it within your application, and ODBC if you want to connect your ExcelRT-based application to various types of databases.